After everything they lost, their jobs, their marriages, and almost their reputations, Amy Robach and T.J. Holmes just did the one thing nobody saw coming. They got engaged. The same couple once splashed across every tabloid, accused of crossing every line, just announced their engagement. And the way they did it says everything about how far they've come. No paparazzi leaks. No glossy magazine deal. Just two voices, sitting behind microphones, sharing the news on their own podcast, quietly, deliberately, and completely in control. But make no mistake, this wasn't just a romantic reveal. It was a statement. Because for nearly 3 years, their love story has been written by everyone but them. Now, for the first time, they're taking the pen back. And the world can't decide whether to celebrate or roll its eyes. It started on camera and ended in chaos. When Amy Robach and T.J. Holmes first sat side by side on GMA3, What You Need to Know, viewers saw instant chemistry. They laughed easily, finished each other's sentences, and turned a daytime news segment into must-watch TV. To fans, it looked like natural charm. To ABC executives, it looked like ratings gold. But behind those smiles, something deeper was forming. A connection that would soon explode far beyond the studio lights. In late 2022, leaked photos showed Amy and T.J. holding hands, sharing drinks, and spending weekends together away from the cameras. The internet lit up overnight. Rumors spread faster than the network could respond. Because at that time, both of them were still married. Amy to actor Andrew Shue and T.J. to attorney Marilee Fiebig. The scandal hit like a shockwave. ABC quickly pulled the pair off air, citing the need for an internal review. Headlines screamed about betrayal, secret affairs, and double lives. Suddenly, two trusted journalists, faces viewers had watched every afternoon, became the center of one of the most public love stories in daytime TV history. For Amy and T.J., what had begun as friendship and shared ambition now felt like a storm they couldn't escape. They weren't just co-anchors anymore. They were the scandal everyone had an opinion on. And as the world argued over what was right or wrong, the two of them made a decision that would change everything. But that was only the beginning. When the headlines finally died down, Amy Robach and T.J. Holmes vanished. No interviews, no social media posts, no statements defending their choices. Just silence. After ABC officially cut ties with both anchors, the two slipped out of the spotlight. A dramatic retreat from the cameras that once defined them. For months, the world was left to fill in the blanks. Paparazzi caught glimpses. The two jogging together, grabbing coffee, or walking hand-in-hand through New York. But they never said a word. Reports claimed they were focusing on rebuilding their lives, one day at a time. Some insiders said they were broken but determined. Others whispered they were defiant, choosing love over legacy. Whatever the truth, one thing was clear. They had gone from America's polished news duo to Hollywood's most controversial couple overnight. Behind closed doors, sources say it wasn't easy. Both were dealing with the wreckage, public humiliation, lost income, and families caught in the crossfire. But instead of fighting the narrative, they waited it out. No apologies, no tell-all interviews, just patience and each other. Still, that silence wasn't just a strategy. It was survival. Because when the world turns your love story into a scandal, sometimes the only way to win is to stop talking and start healing. And that's exactly what they did, until they reappeared with a plan that no one expected. When Amy Robach and T.J. Holmes finally broke their silence, they didn't return to television. They returned to their own microphones. In December 2023, the couple launched the Amy and T.J. podcast, turning what was once a scandal into a comeback. It wasn't just a show. It was their chance to reclaim their voices. From the very first episode, it was clear this wasn't the polished newsroom version of them that viewers remembered. There were no teleprompters, no producers, no scripts, just two people talking about the mess they'd survived. They laughed, they argued, they got emotional. And for the first time, the world heard their story on their terms. They didn't shy away from the pain either. T.J. admitted he'd battled depression after being fired. Amy talked about losing friends and dealing with the whispers that followed them everywhere. They spoke about guilt, regret, and the pressure of being turned into clickbait. And yet, through all the vulnerability, there was a strange calm. The sound of two people who'd already been through the worst and were still standing. The podcast quickly gained traction. Fans who once judged them started listening, curious to hear what the scandalous couple really sounded like without filters. It became less about controversy and more about survival. A story of how to rebuild when the world thinks you're finished. But just as people began to move on, sharp-eyed listeners noticed something new. A tone in Amy's voice, a word T.J. slipped, a tiny sparkle that hinted at something more. Because what they were about to reveal next would prove their story was far from over. It turns out, while the world was busy dissecting their past, Amy Robach and T.J. Holmes were quietly planning their future. On October 14, 2025, during a new episode of their podcast, they finally shared the news themselves. They're engaged. No tabloids, no leaks, no sources close to the couple. Just Amy, her voice trembling with excitement, saying, "We are sharing with all of you that we are engaged, and we've been engaged for just about a month now." T.J. chimed in, calm but proud, adding, "We wanted to let you all know before anybody else was able to. We've learned that lesson in the past, and that line said everything. After being burned by public exposure once before, they weren't about to let anyone else write this chapter for them. This time, they owned it completely." What fans didn't realize was that Amy had already been wearing her engagement ring, in plain sight. She'd attended 3 massive football games over the past few weekends, showing it off proudly. But somehow, nobody noticed. T.J. teased her on the podcast, "You've been dangling that ring in everybody's face every chance you could." Amy laughed, admitting she was shocked no one caught on. "I was waiting for somebody to point it out or ask me, 'Hey, what's that?' And it never happened," she said. At one point, Amy nearly outed their secret herself. She told listeners she'd gone to post a photo on Instagram when T.J. stopped her. "Babe, you see what's very prominent in that picture?" he'd said. Realizing her ring was glowing in the shot, she decided not to post it. "I didn't want that to be what the photo was about," she explained. For weeks, their closest friends had been right beside them, at parties, events, gatherings, without noticing the ring. It wasn't until Amy and T.J. revealed it on the podcast that those same friends probably replayed every moment in their minds, realizing how they'd missed it. And while the world finally knows, one thing's still under wraps: how he proposed. The couple promised to share the full story soon, teasing that there's more to the moment than anyone expects. But one thing's already clear: this wasn't just an engagement. It was a quiet victory, a symbol that, after all the noise, Amy and T.J. have finally found peace in doing things their way. For Amy Robach and T.J. Holmes, keeping their engagement secret wasn't about playing games. It was about protecting something fragile. After everything they'd been through, they knew how fast the media could twist a private moment into public chaos. So this time, they decided to hold it close, to keep one sacred thing out of the headlines. Amy admitted she almost let the secret slip. She'd been ready to post a photo online, glowing with happiness, when T.J. stopped her. He pointed out the ring, sitting clearly in the frame. "Babe, you see what's very prominent in that picture?" he said. And she instantly knew. One post would turn into 100 think pieces. One happy photo could reignite the same frenzy that once destroyed their careers. So she didn't post it. She waited. Their decision to stay quiet wasn't fear. It was control. After being forced into the spotlight once before, they'd learned the value of silence. They didn't want this new chapter to start with gossip headlines or paparazzi lenses. They wanted it to start on their podcast with their words, and there's something almost poetic about that. Two people who lost their voices on television finally reclaiming them through a microphone. This time, the moment wasn't stolen by tabloids or twisted by strangers. It was theirs, pure and unfiltered. But even now, after revealing the big news, one mystery remains. What happens next? Because Amy's already hinted that she doesn't want a big wedding. And TJ? He has his own ideas. For Amy Robach, this isn't her first walk down the aisle. It's her third. But this time, she's doing it her way. On a February 2024 episode of their podcast, Amy confessed she didn't want another grand, picture-perfect ceremony. No designer gown, no cameras, no guest list filled with celebrities. Just something quiet, real, and far away from all the noise. Her dream? Justice of the peace. Vegas, she said with a laugh. TJ couldn't resist teasing her. Is there even a justice of the peace in Vegas? I thought only Elvis did them. But Amy stood firm. She didn't want glamour. She wanted peace. She wanted to run off somewhere tropical. I'd pick eloping and going to Fiji or somewhere really nice and far away. It was an intimate vision. Two people escaping the chaos that once swallowed their lives. No headlines, no critics, no expectations. Just them saying yes without an audience. For Amy, it's more than just another marriage. It's a statement that love can survive after loss, that second chances can come even after public heartbreak. For TJ, it's about redemption. The man once dragged through tabloids for scandal is now planning a future built on honesty and calm. Together, they're rewriting what love looks like after the storm. And yet, while some fans are cheering for their happy ending, others still can't let go of the past. Because when a couple's story begins in controversy, the question always lingers. Can it really end in peace? The announcement of Amy Robach and T.J. Holmes' engagement didn't just make headlines, it reignited an old debate. Can love born in controversy ever truly be forgiven? Social media lit up within hours. Supporters flooded their pages with congratulations, calling their engagement a redemption story, proof that two people can rise above judgment and start over. Fans said they admired the couple for surviving what most relationships couldn't: the public microscope, the shame, and the noise. To them, Amy and TJ weren't villains anymore. They were survivors. But not everyone was celebrating. Critics resurfaced the past, reminding everyone how their romance began. Some claimed the engagement was a PR move, while others insisted that love built on broken trust never lasts. Comment sections turned into battlegrounds: forgiveness versus resentment, love versus morality. Yet, through it all, Amy and TJ didn't argue, didn't post, didn't clap back. They let the world talk while they simply kept living. And maybe that silence, the same calm restraint that once saved them, is their final act of defiance. Because when the world keeps expecting drama, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to give it. Now, nearly 3 years after the scandal that ended their careers, Amy Robach and T.J. Holmes are standing side by side again. Not as anchors, not as fugitives of fame, but as partners, imperfect, unapologetic, and finally free. For them, this engagement isn't just about rings or weddings. It's about reclaiming the story that once destroyed them, and proving that even the most controversial love can find redemption. In the end, maybe this isn't just a love story. It's a lesson in survival. Amy Robach and T.J. Holmes didn't just fall in love. They fell from grace, hard. They lost their dream jobs, their reputations, and for a while, even their peace. But somehow, through all the chaos, they found each other. And they stayed. What began as a scandal has slowly turned into something quieter, steadier, almost defiant. Every time the world expected them to crumble, they chose to rebuild. Every time they were written off, they wrote another chapter. Their engagement isn't a fairy tale. It's a reminder that love doesn't always start perfect. Sometimes it starts messy. Sometimes it costs everything. But if you can survive the storm together, maybe that's what makes it real. Now, as they prepare for a future away from the cameras, one question remains. Did they find redemption or just learn to live without needing it? Tell me what you think. Is this the ending of a scandal or the beginning of something stronger? If you followed this story from the start, hit subscribe and stay tuned. Because when Amy and TJ finally reveal how it all went down, you'll want to hear every word.